Hello everyone, I'm MrEliMac and welcome back to Pitch This here on the channel. Since there is a high likelihood that I'll never write any of these stories, I decided what better way to share these stories than by making this show called Pitch This. And before I get into the idea, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps get this video out to people so that more people can watch it, and I'd love for this video to find more people and for the community to grow because of these videos. For this episode, I'm continuing on with the franchise that keeps on giving. And if you think this is going to be the last in my franchise, oh, you would be mistaken. And also, a great thing about this particular movie that I'm about to pitch is that this would be the one that finally reveals more about our primary antagonist. And by revealing more, I mean find out what happens to the children that he killed. Anyway, here is my pitch for Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And as I've said before in previous videos, some of the elements in this video are going to be inspired by elements of the Game Theorist videos. And I'd like to very much thank MatPat and his crew for creating such a great foundation for people to build upon. Also, I'd like to thank Scott Cawthon for creating such a rich franchise that people want to work on and such. So thank you so much to both MatPat and Scott Cawthon. The year is 2023. Mike Schmidt has been waiting for the sign to continue his investigation, and he has become obsessed with finding clues to stopping William Afton. He continually speaks with the spirit of Charlotte, and he has cut himself off from the rest of the world. However, the sign to continue his work has finally arrived. One day, he's looking at a local newspaper and he sees an ad for the newest amusement attraction, Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. And he stares at it, and a smile starts to slowly form on his face. He looks in the mirror and he sees the reflection of Charlotte. She nods. He walks over to his phone and he calls the number on the ad. Cut 2. Mike meeting with the owner of the attraction. Mike is talking about how he has experience in security and that it would be advisable to have a security guard stay overnight to make sure that no one gets any ideas of trying to break in and steal stuff or break anything in the attraction. Now, the owner is a bit skeptical about this, but Mike keeps trying to insist that security should be the main priority for the attraction. I mean, it hasn't even opened yet, so you want to make sure that no one breaks in, no one destroys anything. You need a good security guard. And the owner says that they'll think about it and they'll call Mike when they have an answer. Mike agrees and he leaves the meeting. Back at his apartment, Mike sits by the phone waiting for the phone call. The phone rings and he quickly answers it. The owner talks to Mike about how they're going to be changing the attraction a bit and how they want Mike to come back over for the night. Mike agrees and he hangs up the phone. And he looks at the mirror and he sees Charlotte. He mentions to Charlotte that he's going to get Afton, but Charlotte is hesitant that it will even be Afton. But Mike reassures her that it's him. Afton's going to be at this location. He doesn't know how, but he just knows. So the next night comes around and Mike meets with the owner of Fazbear Frights. The owner tells Mike that they thought about what he said and they decided that not only are they going to make Mike the security guard, but they're also going to make him a part of the attraction. Mike tries to speak up, but the owner talks about how great of an idea it is. Like, people are going to love it. They're going to walk through, they're going to see Mike, and just everything that they have heard about the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria, they're going to make it a real thing. And so they need a security guard to be the main attraction of, hey, you better be careful. You know, something like that. And the owner tells Mike that they're still trying to find a few more pieces for the attraction, but everything should be ready by the grand opening that is next week. Now, the owner tells Mike to suit up and that the shift starts today. Mike starts tonight. And the owner leaves with Mike looking around the building. He's trying to search for things, but he can't find anything. And night 1 begins, and Mike sits in the office looking at the equipment. And he recognizes some of it, but it's so old that it's almost broken. A lot of the equipment to get the cameras are broken, they're old. Same for the maintenance, it's all old. He hears the phone ring and he puts it on speaker. It's the owner, and they tell Mike that they forgot to tell him a few things. And they go about how the equipment's supposed to be working, the equipment spiel and by the phone dude in the game of how, hey, this is how you work the ventilation system, and this is how you work the cameras, and this is how you work the lights. But the owner emphasizes the importance of restarting the ventilation system. And after that, the owner hangs up, and Mike sits and watches through the cameras. And he's trying to look for any animatronics, but doesn't see any. And he continues to follow the instructions of the owner. He's doing everything he can to make sure that he can find any sort of animatronic, but the night ends. Nothing really happened that night. It was a quiet night one, similar to the actual video game, where night one really doesn't have anything that happens, just familiarizes yourself with the mechanics of the game. So Mike goes back to his apartment, and Charlotte starts questioning Mike, but Mike is adamant that Afton should be there. But Charlotte doesn't question Mike anymore. After hearing how Mike is reacting, she decides to leave him alone. Before Mike can go to sleep, his head starts to hurt. And he goes to the bathroom and he gets some medication. Or at least tries to. Because the moment he grabs the bottle, he just falls flat on the floor. And he starts to have a dream. And he sees Freddy Fazbear walking off the show stage. He follows Freddy, as Freddy is following a shadow Freddy. He hears a voice that says, "Follow me." And he looks at the West Hall, and he sees a picture of Balloon Boy and Mangle. And that's all he sees. He just sees the picture, and he shakes it off, and he continues to follow Freddy. Mike sees Freddy follow a purple Freddy to a blocked-off area of the pizzeria. Now, Freddy tries to go through the boards, but the moment Freddy starts to pull out the boards, William Afton runs up and dismantles Freddy. Mike wakes up. He rubs his head. The pain that he felt earlier is gone now. Any sort of pain that he had is gone. And so before night 2, he walks through the attraction trying to find any animatronic. But once he fails to find one, he goes over to a Balloon Boy arcade game. He places his hand on it, and he is forced to play it. And he starts playing something about Balloon Boy capturing balloons. And after getting all of the balloons, words appear on the screen and they say, "This way." The small arrow points to the opposite side of the exit. Mike leads Balloon Boy that way, and he jumps through the wall. Balloon Boy encounters a new area with 3 crying Balloon Boys. The arrow appears again, and Mike moves Balloon Boy to follow. In the new area, there's a cake. And Mike grabs the cake and he is forced out of the game. Now Mike, he doesn't know what just happened, so he backs away from the arcade game, and he turns to find the owner behind them. And Mike gets a little spooked when he sees the owner, but the owner, trying to reassure him, hey, you okay? Hey, no need to worry. And the owner mentions that they found some classic training tapes to play over the intercom. Also, they found an animatronic. And Mike asks where it is, but the owner has to leave before explaining. Mike's like, no, where is it? Where's the animatronics? The owner's over there don't worry, it'll all be fine. I'll tell you tomorrow. Just have a good night. Night 2 starts, and Mike furiously tries to find the animatronic. And instead of finding it, he sees an image of Balloon Boy on the camera. He closes the camera, and he sees a Balloon Boy right in front of him, and it jumps out at him. Mike braces himself, but nothing happens to him. He looks around, and Balloon Boy has disappeared, and he hears a laugh echo in the building. He looks through the camera, and he sees a Golden Bonnie animatronic walking out of a room. Mike turns on the tape, and hears it mention that animatronics also double as suits. Mike stares at the camera and sees the Golden Bonnie animatronic look back at the camera. And Mike realizes that the animatronic is more than just alive. And throughout the night, Mike tries to not get caught by the Golden Bonnie animatronic. And when night 2 ends, the Golden Bonnie unwillingly recoils and is forced back into its room. Now at his apartment, Mike tells Charlotte about the Golden Bonnie animatronic and how it could potentially be a suit. But Charlotte doesn't say anything and turns away from Mike. Mike asks, "Is everything okay?" And Charlotte mentions that it's not an animatronic. It's a spring-locked suit. Mike asks if someone is in the suit, but Charlotte stays silent again. Mike tries to get answers, but his head starts to hurt again. This time Charlotte asks Mike if he's okay. Mike passes out again. And this time he sees Bonnie doing the same as Freddy. When Mike looks down the West Hall, he sees 4 gray cupcakes. And after that, he continues to follow Bonnie, and he tries to stop Bonnie. He tries to stop him, but Afton dismantles Bonnie. And Mike tries to back away, but he notices Afton just look up and over to him. Afton is staring down Mike, and all Afton does is laugh. Now Mike wakes up and he hears Charlotte call out for him. He sits up and he says that he's alright, and she asked him what happened, and he told her that he just saw Bonnie being led to a back room by a shadow Freddy. And hearing that, Charlotte doesn't reply. Mike asks her what it was about, but she disappears from the mirror. Mike sighs, and he leaves. Back at the attraction, Mike looks at the arcade game, but it's not a Balloon Boy arcade game anymore. No, now the game is about Mangle. And he starts playing and automatically sees an arrow. And he follows the arrow, and Mangle falls down through emptiness until it sees the image of a puppet. Mike brings Mangle over to the puppet, and a cake appears. Mike has Mangle take the cake, and the game ends. And as soon as that game started, a new game is created. But this one's about Chica. Confused, Mike follows the instructions and gives cupcakes to each of the 4 children in the game. Now the exit to the game appears, but then an arrow appears near the top saying, "This way." Mike leads Chica in the opposite direction of the exit, and Chica lands on a red balloon. Mike continues until Chica reaches a cake. He has Chica grab the cake, and the game fully ends. Mike backs away from the machine, confused, and he hears a small growl, and he turns around to hear the growl coming from a back room. But Mike doesn't fear it, and he heads to the security office. He turns on the tape recording, and Night 3 has begun. Night 3 goes on as normal as he learns more facts about the spring-lock suit. And once he hears about how dangerous the spring-lock suits are, he looks at the camera to the Golden Bonnie. He slightly chuckles and continues to survive. When Night 3 is over, Mike watches the Golden Bonnie struggle to ignore its programming. You can just see the Golden Bonnie just try to move forward, but because it's 6 a.m., he is forced back into the back room. Mike leaves the security office and stares at it. Mike simply says Afton, and the Golden Bonnie screams as loud as possible until it is fully forced back into the back room. Mike goes back to his apartment and confirms with Charlotte that the Golden Bonnie suit is William Afton. And Charlotte isn't surprised, but she doesn't give any more answers. Mike asks what's wrong with Charlotte, but Charlotte tells Mike that the dreams he's having are memories, like what Jeremy was going through. Except they're not memories of the kids, they're Afton's memories. She's nervous that Afton may be trying to take over, but Mike again reassures her that he's helping them. He doesn't want to hurt them. And the moment he says that, the pain starts to take over. He lays on the couch and passes out. And so the memory starts again, but this time it's Chica walking off the stage, following Shadow Freddy. Mike checks the West Hall again, and he sees numbers written on the wall. And the numbers are 3, 9, 5, 2, 4, 8. And after seeing that, he mentally keeps them in his head, and Mike continues to follow Chica. And he sees the remain of Bonnie and Freddy on the floor. Chica tries to back away, only to be dismantled by Afton. Mike tries to back away, but Afton just looks over at him. And Afton tells Mike that he's not supposed to be here. Afton goes to attack Mike, but that's when Mike wakes up. Mike starts to tell Charlotte that Afton is realizing that someone is in his memories. And Charlotte starts to get nervous. But Mike tells her that if he gets taken over, she'll know what to do. Before night 4 officially starts, Mike searches everywhere for a keypad, but he can't find it. He goes back to the security office and he tries to find one there. No luck. And out of pure frustration, he slams his fist against the wall. And when he does so, there is some give. And he looks at the wall and he starts pressing on it. And the wall flashes red after a certain point. And he smiles. The keypad is right here on the wall. And he tries to remember the code and he presses the number from the memory. And after finishing, he is suddenly transported back to the arcade machine and he starts playing as a golden Freddy. He sees an arrow and follows it through the multiple levels until he sees a cake. And he takes the cake and he's transported back into the office. Mike just looks around the room, trying to wrap his head around what is happening. And so night 4 starts, and Mike notices that Afton is more aggressive than before. Mike works harder to survive, but he's starting to hear a distorted voice as well. It's Afton taunting him. Now, Afton mentions how he knows who Mike is and why he's trying to do it, and Mike tries to talk back at Afton, but Afton just laughs. He tells Mike that he's going to find those kids again. He's going to find those spirits, and he's going to torture them all over again. Mike tells him that he won't let that happen. Afton tries to enter the office, but as 6 a.m. hits, Afton starts getting forced back into his back room, and he screams no as he is forced back. Now back at the apartment, Mike sees Charlotte in the mirror, and he tells Charlotte what Afton wants. And Charlotte, again, she's still a kid, so she tells Mike that she's scared and that she's always been scared to confront him. He tells her that it'll be okay. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. Once Afton is stopped, she'll be free, along with the other kids. And Charlotte nods. Mike walks to his bed and he falls asleep the moment the headache starts. Mike feels himself in Pirate Cove. He notices Foxy following the Shadow Freddy. Mike looks down the West Hall and sees Afton waiting for him. The two have a small fight with Mike fighting him off. Afton tells him that it doesn't matter what Mike does. The children will always die. And Mike says that he knows. But their spirits won't be tortured by him anymore. Mike looks down the West Hall and sees an image of a Shadow Bonnie. Mike nods and he finishes the memory, seeing Afton dismantle Foxy. Mike wakes up and prepares for the night ahead. Before night 5 officially starts, he searches for a clue, but he doesn't understand the meaning of the Shadow Bonnie. For the first time in years, he feels defeated. But once he gets to his office, he sees a Shadow Bonnie. It grabs him and transports him to the arcade machine. He starts playing as Shadow Bonnie. The arrow appears and directs him on where to go. He reaches the Balloon Boy game again and sees the crying child. He goes to the crying child and a cake appears. And Mike is forced out of the game again. And Charlotte appears behind him. Mike asks Charlotte what happened. She smiles at him. She takes his hand and Mike is transported to a party room. He sees 4 children surrounding the table with masks on. And he sees the final child wearing a golden Freddy mask. They all turn to Mike and say thank you. They all disappear as the balloons float up to the air. Charlotte looks up at Mike and tells him that though those memories were Afton's, she was hiding something in all of them to save the children. Now that they're free, Afton can now be stopped. Mike nods, and he's transported back into his office. Night 5 begins, and when Mike looks through the cameras, none of the phantoms are there. He sees Afton start to walk to the office. Mike turns off the camera and grabs a pipe. He meets Afton halfway, and the two start fighting each other. Afton starts getting the upper hand, but he starts to get headaches. And once Mike notices the headaches are starting to attack Afton, He starts taunting Afton. Mike asks if the memories are torturing him. Afton continues to fight, but Mike holds him at bay. Mike gets the advantage and pushes Afton against an electrical socket. A fire starts, but the two don't stop. Afton grabs Mike by the throat. He tells Mike that Mike is going to die like all of those little children. Suddenly, a loud ringing hits Afton's ears as he is teleported to a memory of the past. He's young again. He looks down and he sees all the children standing in front of the exit to the safe room. He turns around and sees Mike. Mike tells Afton that time's running out. Afton tries to find a way to escape, and he sees a familiar spring-lock suit. Afton gets in the suit and shouts that he's not dying. And he's going to get his revenge. He's going to kill everyone! And some sweat that's rolling off of his face hits the locks in the suit. And then the suit slowly starts to lock into place. Mike tells Afton that he should have paid attention to the instructions. The suit begins to lock Afton in place. Bones start to break. Blood starts to puddle under him. He screams in agony. He falls to his knees and then falls on his back, his body twitching. And that's when we're transported back to the attraction as Afton's reanimated corpse lay on the ground, not moving. Mike rubs his head and backs away from Afton. He looks around and sees the place is on fire. And he runs out of the building as everything inside starts to fall in on itself as the fire takes over. The next day, Mike meets with the owner, telling them what he was watching over. And he noticed that the wires started to ignite. He tried to put the fire out, but it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, so he evacuated. And the owner doesn't blame Mike, and they even tell him that was a major hazard anyway. Mike leaves the owner alone, and Mike heads back to his apartment. Now he looks in the mirror, and he sees Charlotte is truly gone. His head is no longer hurting, and he doesn't hear any more voices. He goes back to bed and lays down. He closes his eyes and goes to sleep, knowing that he stopped William Afton. And that's how I would make Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And that's also sort of an end to the Mike Schmidt trilogy, to be honest. And that was sort of the point of FNAF 1 through 3. That trilogy was dedicated to Mike Schmidt being our main protagonist. Now, don't worry, the next adaptation will be of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This is just the end of the Mike Schmidt trilogy. Hope you all enjoyed that trilogy. I had fun telling you all about the Mike Schmidt trilogy. Mike Schmidt, in my opinion, is a character that, though only appears in one game, I could have easily seen been a major protagonist for at least the first 3. And with all that being said, what were your thoughts on the idea? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you indifferent to it? Whatever your thoughts, post them in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. With everything finally out of the way, I've been Mr. EliMac, and I hope you all have a great rest of the day.